about all the news in the Trump transition. Right now, Republican Congressman Adam Kinzinger is joining us. He's a veteran of the wars in both Iraq and Afghanistan. Congressman, thanks very much for joining us.
You bet, Wolf. Thanks.
All right, so the Trump campaign says it's not a done deal yet, but would you support the retired Marine Corps General James Mattis as Defense Secretary? You think that would be a good idea, even though he's been only out of active duty for 3 years?
Yeah, I love Mad Dog Mattis. Great general. You know, the thing that you notice about good leaders is what his people say about him. And you see people that have worked for James Mattis, and they just said they'd basically follow this guy into any conditions, into hell, because he'd do the same for them. And that's the kind of leader I think the Defense Department needs. And there's an advantage, by the way, to having somebody that was a general in this position, because they know, in essence, where the skeletons are buried. So, you know, in many cases, there's problems with defense acquisitions and the way the Defense Department works that needs reform. And if you're on the inside as a general, when you come out, you're able to know where that is and make some changes. So I think he's a great pick and would love it if that's it.
But you appreciate the traditional civilian leadership at the Department of Defense.
Yeah, you do, and I think it's essential. And I think the big key to understand is, you know, he's been out for 3 years. I don't know why the number was set at 7 back in the day, whenever this was, early 1900s. But he's been out for 3 years. He's in a civilian capacity. So it's not like we're taking somebody right out of uniformed service and installing them in this position. So that'll be a debate the Senate's going to have, and I think ultimately it'll come out favorably.
If he is named a defense secretary, you have a retired general of the Department of Defense. You have a retired lieutenant general, Mike Flynn, as the president's national security advisor. Would that effectively rule out retired General David Petraeus as Secretary of State, because there would be fear too many generals are running national security?
I don't know. Who knows? You know, one of the things I guess you're seeing in foreign policy and in these areas is that, you know, Donald Trump's made it clear he's going to surround himself with experts. He knows he's coming in without government experience. You know, he knows that there's an advantage to coming in without government experience, but you have to have people that have been involved in the military and in government to be able to surround him, and it seems like he's doing that. I don't know if that necessarily bodes poorly for Petraeus or not, but I think, you know, of the finalists I'm hearing in the Secretary of State race, I think we could end up with somebody pretty good.
Well, what do you think? Who do you like of the final four, as they're called?
I like Mitt. I think he'd be a fantastic pick. You know, whether that's where he ends up going or not, that's his decision. But you know, there's a lot of good options. There's nobody I really see that's being named potentially for Secretary of State that I'm concerned with. These are people that understand America's role in the world, understand an encroaching Russia, understand the tragedy in Syria with 500,000 dead Syrians, and I think these are the people that can fix this problem in the long run.
And so the conviction of General Petraeus, 1-count misdemeanor for mishandling classified information, he pleaded guilty to that plea bargain agreement. That doesn't bother you?
Well, it's a concern, obviously, and I think, you know, Donald Trump and the team has probably taken that into account. I think he would have to be, General Petraeus would probably have to talk a little more about it and be accountable to that. But you know what? He's a brilliant mind. I mean, David Petraeus is somebody that, in essence, helped build the resurgence in Iraq and authored the surge and turned around a lot of areas that were challenging. So he has the skill set. This could be an issue, and I think that'll be taken into account as the final decision's made. And
what about Rudy Giuliani's international business deals? Some have suggested that potentially could be a problem. Do you think it could be?
Well, again, it's going to be up to the president-elect and the folks that confirm him. You know, it's tough to kind of get into every name and, you know, what's the good and what's the bad, because we just don't know. But I think all the names I've heard so far would do a great job as Secretary of State. And I think I want to know. I hope it's announced soon, because I think everybody's kind of had enough waiting on this.
Yeah. A lot of people are increasingly thinking Senator Bob Corker of Tennessee, the chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, might be the safest choice. He would sail through a confirmation process. You agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, you know, there's a tradition of senators being able to, in essence, sail through the Senate pretty easily. Bob Corker has great relationships on the Democratic and Republican side. He's very diplomatic, which you obviously need, and the chief diplomat for the United States. I think he'd be fantastic, too. So, you know, again, of all the finalists I'm hearing, there's nobody that, for me as a foreign policy guy and somebody that cares about these issues deeply, there's nobody that puts up huge red flags that are the finalists for this position.
Let's talk a little bit about his victory lap today over in Indianapolis at the Carrier plant. He worked out a deal, as you know, to keep more than 1,000 jobs in Indiana. Very important deal, if you will. At the top of his speech, though it sounded like a campaign rally, if you will, he was talking about himself a lot, congratulating himself. You've been critical. You were critical of him during the campaign. Is that presidential right now to see him out there doing what he obviously so often and so successfully did during the Republican primaries and in the general election?
You know, he's such a unique guy, and this is everything about this is unique, you know, from the Twitter to everything else, that it's hard to judge and say, is this presidential, because he's kind of thrown out the whole script on how this has always worked. You know, I mean, even President Obama, when he was elected, he did things that were considered not presidential, going on YouTube and everything else, and now it just becomes the narrative of how a president is. So I know for a fact, in hearing people talk, that Donald Trump gets energized in front of big crowds, and if this is what's taking you on as politicians, when you go and talk to people, you kind of get re-excited and re-energized, and if this is the way he feels like he connects with his people and his voters and America, that might be a good thing.
Stick around, Congressman. We have more to do. We're back with Republican Congressman Adam Kinzinger as we wait to hear directly from the president-elect at a rally in Cincinnati, Ohio. Congressman, as you know, President-elect Trump, he spoke by phone yesterday with Pakistan's Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif. And according to the Pakistanis, the Prime Minister's office, Sharif's office, Trump called Sharif, and I'm quoting him now, a terrific guy, and said he's ready and willing to play any role that you might want me to play. That was according to a transcript the Pakistanis put out. He says they want to work together. You think that's all that kind of talk about Pakistan, which, as you know, has been pretty controversial in recent years, is appropriate?
I don't know. No. And, you know, I think I haven't seen the transcript. I've seen it reported, obviously, here. I think it's a little over the line to tell somebody, quote, I'll play whatever role you want me to play. Obviously, as the United States, we're proud of the fact that we're the leader of the free world. We're proud of these alliances we have, but we're also in the driver's seat of most of these alliances, and we need to be because of our values and systems. So I think if that actually was said, and again, you know, I don't have anything besides what I've just seen reported. If that was actually said, it was probably a bridge too far. But again, Donald Trump's really new at this, and I think as you kind of get your sea legs under you, as you learn about diplomacy and everything, maybe you get to maybe that changes, maybe that tone changes.
Because as you know, previously Donald Trump has criticized Pakistan, accused it of harboring Osama bin Laden, colluding, if you will, with terrorist organizations. I guess here's the question: was it a mistake for him to start out this new relationship with the Pakistani Prime Minister Sharif, with this tone? Did he get enough briefings going into that phone conversation?
Again, I don't know. I don't know what he's been privy to, what he hasn't. Again, you know, international diplomacy is it's a learning process to learn how to do this. And unfortunately, he doesn't have much experience except in business dealings. And so this is a process for him. But when it's all said and done, I don't think anybody should have any doubt but that Donald Trump will push back against Pakistan. He's been very clear about that. So in this case, you have a statement from a transcript that maybe was or wasn't said that I don't think necessarily shows, you know, how Donald Trump will be when it comes to being president of the United States on these very important issues.
India, which of course has a very tense relationship with Pakistan, took some serious offense to the characterization of that call. I guess we don't know for sure, but do you believe there are enough people surrounding Donald Trump right now, giving him clear advice on how to deal with these sensitive issues, Pakistan, India? Was this perhaps just a rookie mistake?
It could be. Again, there's a lot of information I don't know, but I think the team I've been seeing him assemble around him is actually really good at this. And, it's not the full team yet because he still has to announce Secretary of State, officially Secretary of Defense, and some of these other positions. And so you'll begin to see that coalesce. But, I think there's no doubt you don't want to say things like, we'll play whatever role you want us to play. But I don't think that necessarily indicates that somehow we're going to be subservient to Pakistan.
Congressman Adam Kinzinger, thanks so much for joining us.
You bet, Wolf. Take care.
All right, we're standing by once again for Donald Trump's thank you rally, the first one of the his post-election victory lap tour. We'll have live coverage.